So thank you so much for joining us here. So talent's an area that Europe should have plenty of. But my question for you first to start with, and you're based here in Madrid, is about the alignment, whether universities are aligned with industry in producing the kind of talent that could serve the industry we're talking about. Do you see a gap there, or do you see?
Well, yes. We have made in Spain several estimations. We have worked a lot in our ecosystem to get some reports on how is our context and what do we need and what do we wish for our ecosystem. This last year we had also with Fundación Cotec and make a special report on all of this. And taking into account previous studies also, we estimate that in Spain we need around 5,000 new people for 2030. So you must
5,000.
5,000. It's not very much, because here we don't have foundries. We are most focused now from the government in making happen the growth of startups and new businesses around the global value chains, but mostly are very focused on RISC-V and design also. We have a very big space and also a good defense, aerospace and defense sector. We have also some telecommunications, and we are now developing a lot of artificial intelligence startups and related business. So there are now starting to grow new companies on using semiconductors for sensors, for communications, for this computing, so trying to, in photonics, there is a lot of growth. So yes, we need more people, more educated people. We have a good balance and a good background in physics and material science, also in engineering, with a lot of telecom and electrical engineering. But of course, we do not have fab exposure, so it would be nice to have also certified people in this, to have experienced fab technicians, and also to grow in the era, no? So more chip design engineers and expertise in compound semiconductors that are also some of the initiatives. For example, the Stark fabric in Vigo for sure is going to need more people when they are growing out. And yeah, I think that there are gaps, but there are also some initiatives, and maybe we talk about this later. But this is in the context of Europe, where we have also some estimations from the European Chips Skill Intelligence Report. And in 2030, the shortfall is around 50,000 people in the industry, for the industry in Europe.
A shortfall of 50,000?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Heike, let me turn to you. You spoke very compellingly yesterday about the new neuromorphic computing and advanced computing trends, and that must place new demands on the talents that we're producing. Are you seeing the pipeline that you need to provide the skills that you need at IBM or elsewhere for these new technologies?
Yes, I think there are several challenges which we have. On one hand, it's about the development of the AI, what I mentioned yesterday, which has the hardware development and also the algorithm and the software development. But on the other hand, it's also about using AI in your job as a topical professional in physics or in healthcare or in doing design or in whatever, right? And so I think The most important message I would like to give is that we all need a mindset of lifelong learning. And I think the most important is that everyone here also gives this to your children because they have to embrace it, right? Because this will be very, very key that your children understand this. Because I'm personally very concerned that if we hear in Europe that we are more educated than our children, and that's not a good trend, right? This is a trend which actually goes in the wrong direction. And so AI is coming, it's a big avalanche. It's here, but it will become even more here, and it will become even stronger. I mean, when we talk about, I asked, for example, my team in 2018 to say, okay, what is it, what you, in your research area, how can you use AI? And, you know, we have quantum, we have even the scanning tunneling microscopy, right? So people started saying, oh, how can I use AI, right? And I think people are not, if you look at the students who study physics, who study electrical engineering, some who are very smart, who are very agile, they have embraced AI already, but it's not part of the curriculum. And in the end, if I now want to hire a new person, I want to have the topical expert, but I also want to have AI skills in the topical expert. And this will really help to differentiate. I mean, this differentiates right now the people, but in the future, everyone has to have these AI skills to apply it for the job you're working on. And I think this will be challenging. It's challenging also how we educate our own workforce. And I think that's probably all what you also realize, that to train your workforce on AI skills is important. And we provide within IBM even initiatives by our CEO to really train everyone and to give everyone the opportunity, even with the global courses, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's I believe is very important, that we can apply AI in our technical environment which we are trained in. And of course, and the next step is already coming, right? Also in big steps and very, very fast is quantum computing. Quantum computing is another new type of computing we need to get started to learn, because it's coming again also faster than most of the people know, if you ask, right? By 2029, we have a first fault-tolerant, scalable quantum computer with 200 logical qubits. So we need to start now to actually train these people who can apply it. And if you start your PhD, you have 4 years, so the machine will be there. So you need to get started also now in these things. And when we look more on the technical side of developing, then I see also that right now in physics, electrical engineering, the number of students goes down in Europe. I see it in particular in Germany. ETH not, because they're very attractive, but if you go through the average universities in Germany, then you see this trend. And this concerns me even more when I hear that the number of high school students who take physics as a major also goes down. So we have a trend which is really going all in the wrong direction. And that concerns me, that we at a certain point get the right people.
So this is, these are very compelling statements about lifelong learning and this reverse trend. And you know, there are a bunch of countries that have invested heavily in education and retraining and vocational training. Do you think they're doing the right things to keep up, to compensate for this downward trend that Heike is talking about, and also to keep up with the demands of lifelong learning, which...
Well, there are some examples, but I need I think that we need to be more ambitious in that. But there are some examples that...
more ambitious at the university level or in retraining and vocation?
In every level. We need to act at the university level, but we need to act at the schools already. As Heike said, the people studying STEM is going down in Europe. This is a generic trend, and it has to do a lot with our good standards, I think, that people don't need to inculcate in their sons or daughters that life is difficult and they must be really prepared. You have another standard, you live well, and somehow the kids take this sometimes unconscious, and they want to go to the easy way. They don't want to make difficult things, abstract things, and studies that take longer or that need an effort. They want an easy way. So, no, this is very important because we must realize that the recipes that work with us or with older generations are not going to work with our next future generations. And we need to be very original, if you want, to motivate them and to attract them to this kind of path. And if we don't do things differently, we are not going to attract the young people. So this is what I think, and this is really difficult because we must invest on this, on make new curricula, and making things work as a life experience for them, life-changing experience, that they approach our sector in a new and original way. If we are only just going to the schools to make an inspiring talk, as we used to do sometimes, this is not working anymore. This is not an impact for them. And you need in Europe to make something different, more hands-on, and that they get in an early way direct contact with the industry. This is very, I see now, for example, in the US, how even undergrad are going to make apprentice and internships and secondments at the industry.
Talk a little bit more. You said hands-on, and so describe to me how that can work.
Yeah, for example, in Spain, we put a lot of effort in trying to attract people from the school, and we are usually organizing this kind of visiting to the schools from professors or company, or from even the parents of some of they are giving some talks. Sometimes you take a school class into the university and show the labs, but it's not very often that we take these kids to make a project on something related, and they must really embrace the topic at his level, of course, but doing something that they see how it works, why is this important and relevant, why this could be a mission for themselves. You should give this generation meaning. It's totally different to our generation. We were well motivated because we came from another background, or we have in Europe the generations that suffered in our grandparents' war, and they wanted to go to a better future. No? But right. Now our kids are in another point.
So there was greater transparency for students in former technologies. But Heike, let me turn to you.
Can I add one thing to that? Because it resonates very well with me, because I actually did not go directly to study physics. And I think we need to make our education system again more that people can move.
Yeah,
because I actually did in middle school, and then did an apprenticeship as a furniture maker, and then studied physics, right? Or did my Abitur and then studied physics. And I think what you need in the end, and also what I'm hiring, are people not who directly did what I need, but where I see they're smart, they're ambitious, and they want to achieve something. Because then I know that they will.
So they can adapt. They can move.
They can adapt. Because in research, I mean, when I'm at IBM, in research, I have changed my research project a couple of times, and you have to be able to do that switch very, very quickly, that you can come to top notch within no time in a new topic. And of course, you should have some overlap. That helps, right? But you also have to be really able to to embrace new things and make this work.
I find this as fascinating, this need for agility and how you train a sort of agile mind. But which roles are you finding it particularly hard to fill in semiconductors, and both in Europe and globally? Where is the talent coming from, and where are the shortfalls?
So I mean, I guess in semiconductor there are many different things. There is a design. I think it's very skills which were not so attractive made from a communication, from a marketing point of view, and which were not needed for a while, but now they are more and more needed. Right? That's a problem because you cannot immediately switch on your pipeline. What I see is coming up as a very critical skill is algorithm development, because it's not about only engineering, it's about a lot of creativity if you want to figure out and invent new algorithms. And that needs a skill which is highly theoretical and very smart, and you need to embrace that field, that you have an intuition, that you come up with new ideas. And so algorithm development, it's getting even more complex, because now we have it for quantum, which is very scarce. We have it for AI, where there are more, but it's also scarce and highly needed. And then for classical. And in the end, we want to bring these three things together, so we need people actually who know all the three. And that's kind of impossible. We now start to get these teams talking, that they start learning to understand each other, that they can come up with real synergistic new things.
So are there synergies there? You could see teams with these individual skills working together and helping each other.
Actually, we pulled them together. I mean, not because I liked it, but because we did it. And they need now to start talking. Because in the end, that's what we need. We need to have a multidisciplinarity. We need to have, however, also very deep experts. And they need to, however, also be able to talk to each other, that they can come up with something totally new.
So Anna, this again, these are very compelling ideas about agility, working together, being able to move from one talent group to another. What would you prioritize in Europe as a means of going ahead, as an educational plan or a retraining plan? How would you go about reshaping that?
Well, there are many measurements that are being taken. For example, in Europe, we have this Semiconductor Skills Academy that was recently created and is doing this job.
Tell me again, Semiconductor Skills Academy.
Yeah, they are trying to put together different universities and different courses and trying to reskill people and have
Spanish,
more
particularly Spanish.
No, it's an effort globally at Europe. But we need more focus, and I think, of course, we need to scale these technical educations to widening our educational tracks on semiconductors and making more focus, because semiconductors till now is like a small part of physics studies, for example. But for sure, we need more masters and more focus things on design and so on that we haven't till now. In Spain, one of the initiatives of this PERTE chip was to create a common effort with companies and universities for training people and making some research projects. And they have been given 16, I think, projects throughout Spain, and they are making a lot of training. They are mostly focused on design, but not always. Some of them are also focused on semiconductors and compounds and fab and this kind of thing. So it's a good point, it's a starting point, but it's not enough ambitious. And I think we must do even more, and we must also, these short cycle credentials should be pushed in a more flexible way, because they could bring new students in the path of the semiconductors, but also will help to reskill or upskill our workforce. And another point which is very important is the retention of talent. In Spain, we have a problem with this. We generate good professionals, I think, professionals that could go and work everywhere globally. We are not able to retain most of our talent, and we have seen so many Spanish bright people
The
working
Spanish diaspora.
abroad.
that's-
isn't it?
Right, exactly. Well, that is the multi-million-dollar question, Heike, and I wanted to ask you about it too. What are we going to do to keep people in Spain or in Europe more broadly if we do succeed, you know, with some of those plans that Anna was talking about in creating these agile minds, this thirst for lifelong learning? But what's going to keep people here instead of heading off to the United States or elsewhere?
No, I think it's also the environment which you give, right? I mean, we also have to look at the new generations. They're looking also for a bit of other things that we were looking for. And so it's community, it's also making a nice environment, having a purpose is very important. I think we as a semiconductor industry, we were not so good in really conveying and communicating the purpose.
Yeah,
Because
so-
it's not only about the chip which we build, but it's about what this chip does. And we were never kind of really good in conveying this message of what the chip does and why it's useful to work in that industry. And this is, so now I'm very blunt, right? This is why mostly male are sitting on the table. Because women look much more for a purpose. And I have experienced this in my work as a, you know, in my being a leader and manager of people. I had many females coming to me and said, look, it's a
What's
very
this all
competitive
about?
environment, it's a very male-dominated environment, how can I survive, right? And how can I see the purpose, right? How can I help people? And that's probably because we are socialized a bit different. And those people look for a bit for a different purpose. And I'm now not talking about individuals, but about averages. And this, I see we have to do also a better job in communicating what is done with all these chips which are produced. And there's so, I mean, we use them all. It's coming more and more, but that I think could be done better.
Do you have can you suggest a way of doing that? Showing purpose? I mean, it's all around us, but...
Yes, I mean, there have been lots of, you know, or new initiatives. I've seen some in Germany where people really show what these chips are doing, right? You can use, for example, Siemens Healthineers, for example, right? It's an easy part. You have all these health instrumentations where this sophisticated technology goes into it and how it helps people, right? So you can find easy examples, I believe. It's not only the mobile phone, but there are also other things which to make it work. And this then gives a lot of purpose and then also attracts young talents. And then keeping it in Europe, I think, again, it's about the environment, it's about collaborations. And I think right now it's probably politically also got easier.
Possibly,
Well,
yes. We can.
I must tell Ned, that in this point, I think we are not ambitious enough, and we are.
We meaning who? Who's
I was thinking from Spain, but I think that probably it could be generalized to other countries. Usually, our governments like to invest. If they like, sometimes there are. But they like to invest more in research. Research, you have always, when you have results, this is usually good, and this are also good news, and it's not a political issue, usually. So it's a good point to be. Education is something different. In education, we invest, but our level of investing is sometimes not very ambitious. And I have been in the university for a long time already. We have passed through several laws, and we have changed our curricula to adapt to this Bologna law in Europe. And we have made it at a very, very low cost. Some changes we have made it at zero cost. So this is not sustainable. And we need to renew infrastructures, we need to make new paths, and we need resources for new people, new talent also joining the university. And the best, not the smallest one, you know, and making things happen really with no economical effort or with no talent behind. So we must be much ambitious, and we must put a focus on this because it's the future of our industry. And sometimes the efforts are not balanced.
I think we have a little bit of time for questions.